So, what we really want more than anything in life, at a very basic level, is security, right? We want to feel secure, we want to feel safe. Isn't that so? Would you agree that that's one anchoring we want more than anything else? And in order to be safe, we try to control our environment, isn't it? Because if we can control our environment enough to fulfill certain conditions, we feel safe and secure. But the point is that no matter how hard we try, there will always be uncontrollables in life. No matter what you do, what frustrates you in life is that you don't have the control you want, right? That frustrates us. A certain outcome we want, we don't know how to get it. We try very hard for it, but it doesn't come, or it comes in its own season. And that frustrates us, right? And so basically, when things go contrary to our demand on the situation, that's when we feel insecure. And that's when we feel like maybe I'm not in a very safe place in life, right? Even though we have faith in Mother, etc., in those moments, at least in the surface part of us, we feel unsafe, we feel maybe life is not really such a friendly place, right? So that's the time we really need to understand that things won't go the way we want them to. And in a way, thank God for that. I keep repeating, in China, there's a curse, may all your wishes be granted. Because if all our wishes were granted, we just get too comfortable, there'd never be growth, right? So very often things go contrary to what we want, because everything comes to us as an invitation of our soul, as the deepest needs of our soul. What does our soul want? Our soul wants to grow. Our soul wants to reach its own truth. And we oftentimes aren't able to reach there. So the soul invites circumstances that gives us pain. And as Sri Aurobindo says, wherever there is ignorance, there suffering too must come. Whenever suffering comes, it's not because life is bad or we are bad. It's because that suffering is hitting at that pocket of ignorance in us, which needs to be brought to light so that we can see it, change it, and grow from it. So there is, even when we feel unsafe, there is always a protection, and we go deeper into discovering this veiled protection. It's not apparent to us. not to the ordinary vision, but there is, as the title of the talk says, the invisible, unfailing protection. Okay, so now from Mother's words. Mother says, when you think of the Lord's peace, it acts as a call. And the more you think of it, the more you surround yourself with it, which is the most powerful protection. So there was this beautiful line in Savitri. Let me see if I can recollect it. Calm. Something to the effect that calm is the proof of the omnipresent spirit. Whenever you are calm in the midst of difficulty, it's the proof of, oh, that's such a beautiful line. Does anyone remember it? Calm is the, I'll find it and tell you next time, but what I remember from memory is calm is proof of the presence of the spirit. So when you are in a great difficulty, instead of getting agitated, when a deep calm descends on you, that is actually proof that the spirit is with you. And Mother is saying that just by thinking of the Lord's peace in moments of difficulty, you found it, Jaita? Okay. Just in thinking of the Lord's peace in moments of difficulty, you can come here. In moments of difficulty is a call to that peace. Yeah? And that peace is your greatest protection. You have to develop the power and the habit of taking refuge in the protection of the Mother and myself, Sri Aurobindo says. It is for this reason that the habit of criticizing and judging by the outer mind or cherishing its preconceived ideas and formations must disappear. You should repeat always to yourself when it tries to rise, Sri Aurobindo and the Mother know better than myself. They have the experience and knowledge which I have not. They must surely be acting for the best and in a greater light than of ordinary human knowledge. So he said a very important thing. It is for this reason the habit of criticizing and judging by the outer mind or cherishing its preconceived ideas and formations must disappear. So recently a student of mine shared what happened to him. So it was in one of the streets of Bombay. He was about to park his bike and a car came in the way and he honked. It's natural to honk when a car comes, right? But it was one of the crowded streets of Mumbai and a whole mob gathered and started yelling at him, "How dare you honk?" And he might have said something, he's a youth and youthful arrogance, that mind your own business or something harmless like that. And it was a mob rage. They got out, they started beating him, and in the scuffle they pulled out his chain, a gold chain, and it was like that. So to all outward vision, it's a terrible thing that has happened. But he told me that somehow while he was getting beaten, he's very connected to the Mother, there was such a strong descent of peace. And he said, after the beating, I haven't felt so peaceful for days and days. So, and maybe there was something in him that needed to be worked out. There was one particular weakness in him which he was working with. And he said, after I got beaten, that arrogance just completely left me. He acknowledged that he tended to feel arrogant sometimes. And he says, after that beating, there was no arrogance in me, just complete peace. So it's Mahakali's blow. We may judge it as good or bad, but it's actually grace. So that's why Sri Aurobindo is saying that don't judge circumstances with your outward mind. You will never understand what mother is achieving through different things. One level of thinking is this person was so connected to the mother, she was the mother's child, she should have protected him from being beaten. But she was protecting him from his arrogance by being beaten. Sometimes you need greater protection from the enemies within. The enemies outside can be handled. But who will protect you from the enemies inside you but the mother, isn't it? So we can't judge her working. She works in many different ways, and sometimes when you feel least protected, she's actually protecting you the most. And from enemies that you have no clue are the real enemies. So, you should always repeat to yourself when it tries to rise, Sri Aurobindo and the mother know better than myself. They have the experience and knowledge which I have not. They must surely be acting for the best and in a greater light than that of the ordinary human knowledge. Life is what you make it. Why not find the very best in every situation and enjoy it to the full, no matter where you are or what you're doing? Never waste time and energy wishing you were somewhere else, doing something else. These are not mother's words. I posted this on the Savitri group. Shailaja sent it to me. Never waste time and energy wishing you were somewhere else, doing something else. You may not always understand why you find yourself where you are, but you may be sure there is a very good reason and there is a lesson to be learned. Do not fight against it, but find out what that lesson is and learn quickly so that you can, Mansi, you can take a back rest there next to Anjan, so that you can move on. You would not want to remain static, would you? As you cease resisting and simply accept the lessons to be learned, take them all in your stride. You will find life much easier, and what is more, you will enjoy the changes which take place. A plant does not resist growth or change. It simply flows with it and unfolds in true perfection. Why don't you do the same? So it's just reiterating what we said. Whatever happens to you, make peace with it. Understand that whatever happens to you is happening for a reason. There's a meaning in every curve and line, and you may not understand why it's happening, but it's part of the plan. So instead of fighting it, relax. Ask yourself, what do I have to learn from it? Because life never sends you suffering pointlessly. It's sending you suffering as a great opportunity to grow. And suppose you're a very, very ripe soul, then maybe to accelerate your evolution, life will send you more difficulties, because more difficulties, more is your chance to grow. Not that you invite difficulties, but if they come, remove the dialogue from your mind that I'm bad or life is bad. It's not about that. It's about growth and evolution. It is true that the divine protection is always around us, but it fully works only when doing some work for the divine. So beautiful. The mother saying that the divine protection is always around us, but when you're working for the divine, then the protection is really strong. If danger suddenly rise on the way, then the protection works at its best. So, when the mother's protection is put around a person, how does he go out of it? This is a very good question. If you say that anyone who has a call to the mother and her protection is always there, how does he go out of it? So Sri Aurobindo answers, by desire, wrong thoughts, wrong actions, wrong feelings, by revolt, pride, ambition, lust, or any other vital indulgence. So, see, finally, it boils down to consciousness is the only protection you have, right? If you're in the right consciousness, even an assassin's hand with a gun in it can't pull the trigger. That actually happened, no, to Satprem, a devotee of the mother. He was in such a state of calm that the person couldn't pull the trigger and he ran away. So, if we are in that state, we are totally protected. But the moment wrong movements come, now all these things that Sri Aurobindo has said, desire, wrong thoughts, wrong actions, wrong feelings, revolt, pride, ambition, lust, all these are ignorances, right? So wherever there is ignorance, there suffering too must come. And Mother sending us that suffering is part of her protection, isn't it? Because the thing we need greatest protection from is our own ignorance. And sometimes to protect us from that ignorance, she may give us out a blow, but that too is part of her protection.
There will be pockets when these desires overcome us. So are we under the protection of Mother at that time?
Well, you're out of the protection of your own consciousness. If consciousness is your protection, at one level that shield you've broken. But the mother's protection is to protect you from all these ignorances. So even when she sends you a blow, it's to protect you from something much bigger that would come if you didn't work on these things inside you. Because there's a beautiful line in Savitri, our outward happenings have their seed within. So if those seeds are not worked on, then even more difficult outward happenings would come your way. These little blows, if she gives you to work out these seeds inside, it's worth it, no? To prevent bigger calamities from coming.
Basically, always under her protection.
Yes, you are always under her protection, but the intensity of the blow can be less or more depending on how much you connect with her. So like this boy I was talking about, when he was being beaten, I haven't asked him, but whenever I speak to him next I will. I don't know if he consciously called to the mother, but the moment he was being beaten, the mother's protection was there. The peace that descended on him was the mother's protection. And finally, it could have been so much worse, but he got away with very little injuries, right? Same happened with you. I mean, there was another person who was in the same week going on the road by Rick. A car hit her. She was thrown out of the Rick, but she got away with just a few scratches. Now that's, you can't imagine how that can happen, but that's the mother's protection, and who knows what she lifted off in making this happen. We can't understand it. Keep always this thought when these things come, the mother's protection is with me. Nothing bad can happen. For when there is the psychic opening and one puts one's faith in the mother, that is sufficient to ward these things off. Many sadhaks learn when they have alarming dreams to call the mother's name in the dream itself, and then the things that menace them become helpless or cease. You must therefore refuse to be intimidated and reject these impressions with contempt. If there is anything frightening, call down the mother's protection. No protection, no grace can save those who refuse to have the indispensable purification. So, here there's a contradiction. On one hand, she's saying protection is always there, But on the other hand, she is also saying no protection, no grace can save those who refuse to have the indispensable purification. So, Mother's grace will be there, but if you don't purify yourself of the impurities that stay in you, there's a point to which that protection help works. Huh? Removing pockets of ignorance. In your work and acts, you must do the same as in your concentration. Open to the Mother, put them under her guidance, call in the peace, the supporting power, the protection, in an order that they may work, reject all wrong influences that might come in their way by creating wrong, careless, or unconscious movements. Follow this principle and your whole being will become one, under one rule in the peace and sheltering power and light. Where will Rama sit? You can sit on the floor. Okay. You can sit or you can sit there. Rama, where do you prefer to sit? What do you prefer? Okay. So, in your works and acts, you must do the same as in your concentration. Open to the Mother, put them under her guidance. Call in the peace, the supporting power and protection. And in order that they may work, reject all wrong influences that might come in their way by creating wrong, careless, or unconscious movements. So this is very important. Before you do any work, open to the Mother, offer her the work, call in the peace, the supporting power, the protection, and reject all wrong influences that might come in their way by creating wrong, careless, or unconscious movements. Follow this principle and your whole being will become one under one rule in the peace and sheltering power and light. They, the three, faith, surrender and samatha, have to be put into every part and atom of the being so that there may be no possibility of a contrary vibration anywhere. So beautiful. Three things, faith, surrender and samatha, have to be put in every part and atom of the being so that there may be no possibility of a contrary vibration. Faith in what? Faith in the invisible protection. Faith in the fact that whether it seem good or evil to men's eyes, only for good the secret will can work. Surrender to this knowing that I won't by the judgments of my mind about things as good or bad. Whatever's happening, I'll always be in the stance of that leap of faith telling me that it's good. I surrender to it without resistance. And if I have faith and surrender, I'll always have samatha, equanimity. Equanimity is lost when I'm judging a situation as bad for me. I keep coming back to that beautiful line from the Gita where Krishna tells Arjun that my devotee is one who is in a constant state of Shubh, Ashubh, Parityagi. Shubh is fortunate, Ashubh is unfortunate, Pari is fully, Tyagi is renounced. One who has renounced the distinction between fortunate and unfortunate and takes whatever comes to him as my blessing and good. Mother says it very simply. If you live your life taking everything without exception as God's grace, you will see that it is indeed grace, because it is, but you have a veil over your vision. When we are in close contact with the divine, a protection can come which helps or directly guides or moves us. It does not throw aside all difficulties, sufferings, or dangers, but it carries us through them and out of them, except where for a very special purpose there is a need of the opposite. Like in the case of the girl who met with the rickshaw accident, there must be a need of the opposite. Maybe something was lifted off in that accident. Ask for our protection before you sleep or meditate. Use our names when you are attacked or tempted. This is important. Before you sleep or meditate, ask for our protection. Simply, just in words, Ma, protect me, be with me. Use our names when you're attacked or tempted. Now, temptation is also a biggest attack, no? Simple temptations. I know I shouldn't be putting that extra morsel of food in my mouth, but I'm tempted. I know I shouldn't be indulging in this gossip, however good it feels to my vital. I know I shouldn't do it, but I'm getting tempted to it. I know I shouldn't indulge this particular attachment, but I'm not able to hold back. I know I shouldn't be being rude or cold to this particular person, but the samskaras of the past are such that I can't stop myself. So all these are temptations, no, to do what the higher wisdom in me already knows I shouldn't be doing. So whenever those temptations come, Mother says to use her name, to call her. The power of the name and the protection is that of everyone who has used it with the same faith and reliance. To those who call from the heart for the protection, it cannot fail. Do not allow any outward circumstance to shake the faith in you, for nothing gives greater strength than this faith to go through and arrive at the goal, knowledge and tapasya. Whatever their force, have a less sustaining power. Faith is the strongest staff for the journey. The protection is there over you and the watchful love of the Mother. Rely upon it and let your being open more and more to it. Then it will repel attacks and always uphold you. So there was this very beautiful story Narad had once shared with me. I think there were some riots happening and there was one child who was going to get hurt, and there were people throwing stones and everything, and Narad just went through the crowd who were throwing stones and whatever, loudly shouting Ma, 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 and not one stone hit him. He picked up the child, and then while coming back, somehow he forgot to say Ma because he thought he'd reach safety. The moment he didn't say Ma, a stone hit his head. So that's the kind of power the word Ma has, the name itself has.
If our concentration slips, then we are at risk.
Yeah. Disciple, last night I dreamt that in my native village I entered a house where a madman came to attack me. Being afraid of the madman, I ran away, for I have always been afraid of madmen, especially violent ones. My movement was slow, but along the way I found a stick and got rid of the attacker. Sri Aurobindo writes, it was a dream of the vital plane where all kinds of dangers occur until you get courage to face them. If there is no fear, or if there is the protection of the Mother, which becomes manifest by remembering or calling her, then these dangers come to nothing. It is the fear of the madman that brought the thing in the vital. Such things as this fear have to be thrown out of the nature. So he's saying that whatever you fear, that fear acts like a magnet in the vital plane, and when you go to sleep, you go to the vital plane and you'll attract exactly that in the vital plane. So until you overcome that fear, those dreams will keep coming back. So what do? It's not in your control sometimes to overcome the fear. So the next bit is very beautiful. Mother says, no attachments, no desires, no impulses, no preferences, perfect equanimity, unchanging peace, and absolute faith in the divine protection. With that, you are safe. Without it, you are in peril. And as long as you are not safe, it is better to do like little chickens that take shelter under the mother's wings. I found this very beautiful. She's saying, of course, consciousness is your greatest protection, a consciousness which is free from fear, which is peaceful, nothing can touch you. But till you reach there, if you are still afraid, then be like little chicken going to the mother hen to be protected. Even if you're fearful, take the mother's name and the protection will come. So till you have a consciousness where, well, in a sense, you're so one with mother that you don't have to call her. You're already the peace that the mother is. And that peace is your greatest protection. But till you reach there, you call to her. Now these are words of the mother called union is effected through offering. This is what you have to do to carry out your general offering in detailed offerings. Live constantly in the presence of the divine. Live in the feeling that it is this presence which moves you and is doing everything you do. Offer all your movements to it. Not only every mental action, every thought and feeling, but even the most ordinary and external actions such as eating. When you eat, you must feel that it is the divine who is eating through you. When you can thus gather all your movements into the one life, then you have in you unity instead of division. No longer is one part of your nature given to the divine, while the rest remains in its ordinary ways engrossed in ordinary things. Your entire life is taken up. An integral transformation is gradually realized in you. So mother somewhere has written that if you can do any activity without remembering me, in that part of your being you're not consecrated. So we do 99% of our activities without remembering her. So we have a long way to go. She says that actually in every activity, the closer you are to the state I want you to be in, you'll be remembering me. While brushing your teeth, while eating, while working, while walking. And if you can do anything without remembering me, that means that part of you hasn't been colonized by the psychic. That part of you is not consecrated. Need of a complete offering, mother's words. In the integral yoga, the integral life down even to the smallest detail has to be transformed, to be divinized. There is nothing here that is insignificant, nothing that is indifferent. You cannot say when I'm meditating, reading philosophy or listening to these conversations, I will be in this condition of an opening towards the light and call for it. But when I go out for a walk or see friends, I can allow myself to forget all about it. Then it doesn't work. It's not that only when you come to Sarkar or you're meditating you remember mother, or when you're talking to people etc. you forget all about her. It doesn't work like that. To persist in this attitude means that you will remain untransformed and never have the true union. Always you will be divided. You will have at best only glimpses of this greater life. although certain experiences and realizations may come to you in meditation or in your inner consciousness, your body and your outer life will remain unchanged. An inner illumination that does not take note of the body and the outer life is of no great use, for it leaves the world as it is. And in fact, to live the way we normally live, forgetting our source, it's a very lonely existence, na? You feel alone in everything you do. But the moment you're constantly remembering Mother in everything you do, you're never alone. You're always accompanied by the world's best companion. No other company fulfills you so much as the Mother's does, if you take time to really invite it and be with it. Not just when you meditate and read, but it has to be a company you seek 24/7. There's a beautiful flower, the Mother has given it the name Constant Remembrance of the Divine. And if you have that, you're sorted, constantly remembering. I don't know, you'll have to look it up. You know, with me now, I only know Mother's names. If you ask me any common names, I don't know. That also I've forgotten. But you can look it up on the net. So, constant remembrance. In the beginning of the yoga, you're apt to forget the divine very often. But by constant aspiration, you increase your remembrance and you diminish the forgetfulness. But this should not be done as a severe discipline or a duty. It must be a movement of love and joy. Then very soon a stage will come when, if you do not feel the presence of the divine at every moment, and whatever you are doing, you feel at once lonely and sad and miserable. So if you all remember Bhakti Bain, who used to look after the Pederoth Center, this was told to me that once she was painting with some people and suddenly she retreated to the corner very sad, and she said, I can't paint because I'm not feeling Mother's presence. Now it's a small incident, but it says a lot. She must be so connected to the Mother that in one little pocket of her life, if she didn't feel the Mother's presence, it immediately brought her sadness. And she couldn't function. She couldn't continue with the painting because she couldn't paint without feeling the presence. So that's the state we can grow into. Whenever you find that you can do something without feeling the presence of the divine and yet be perfectly comfortable, you must understand that you're not consecrated in that part of your being. Beautiful, no? Whenever you find you can do something without feeling the presence of the divine and yet be perfectly comfortable, you must understand that you're not consecrated in that part of your being. That is the way of the ordinary humanity which does not feel any need of the divine. That's ordinary human beings. We can be perfectly happy without feeling any need for the divine. That's ordinary existence. But if you want to break out of that, it's imperative to feel a constant need to feel the divine presence. That is the way of the ordinary humanity which does not feel any need of the divine. But for a seeker of the divine life, it is very different. When you have entirely realized unity with the divine, then if the divine were only for a second to withdraw from you, you would simply drop dead. For the divine is now the life of your life, your whole existence, your single and complete support. If the divine is not there, nothing is left. The next piece is words of the Mother called the power of love. The divine love of which I speak is a love that manifests here upon this physical earth in matter, but it must be pure of its human distortions if it is to incarnate. The vital is an indispensable agent in this as in all manifestation. Everyone knows what the vital means? The vital, Sri Aurobindo has said that you are not made up of one structure. You have many, so to speak, persons living in you simultaneously. Common example is you go home from work and your body may just want to sit, but your mind may want to read a novel you're in the middle of. Your vital may want to call up your mother or friend. So you have different pulls because each of these three different persons, the mental, vital is the emotional, and the physical have different needs. So the vital is your energy body or your emotional body. So the mother says that the vital is an indispensable agent in this, in the manifestation of true love as in all manifestation. But as has happened always, the adverse powers have put their hold on this most precious thing. It is the energy of the vital that enters into dull and insensitive matter and makes it responsive and alive. But the adverse forces have distorted it. They have turned it into a field of violence and selfishness and desire and every kind of ugliness and prevented it from taking part in the divine work. So our emotional body, vital body, is often held hostage by negative forces which pull us towards ambition, attachment, greed, possessiveness, and all that which are barriers to true love. The one thing to be done is to change it, not suppress its movements or destroy it. That's why Sri Aurobindo's whole message is all life should be yoga. Because other yogas talk about asceticism. They say stay away, like in Buddhism, there's a very strict discipline where monks, some sects don't even look at a woman, or you stay away from objects of desire because you don't want your desire to be triggered. But that is a totally counterproductive thing to do in Sri Aurobindo's yoga, but because he doesn't want to dry up the vital. If you do this, your vital dries up. He wants a transformed vital which is at the service of the divine. He doesn't want a dried, shriveled up vital. So, the one thing to be done is to change it, not suppress its movements or destroy it. For without it, no intensity is possible anywhere. You become a very dry person if the vital is suppressed. The vital is in its very nature that in us which can give itself away. Means it's the vital which can really self-give to the mother. Just because it is that which has always the impulse and the strength to take, it is also that which is capable of giving itself to the utmost. Because it knows how to possess, it also knows how to abandon itself without reserve. So there's a beautiful line that it's those who cannot take, who cannot give. If you know, there are people who find it very difficult to take from others, they are the people who find it very difficult to give to others also. So mother saying that the vital by its nature wants to take. It always wants to get something in exchange of giving. And because it has this impulse to take, if it gets transformed to the same magnitude, it has the impulse to self-give also. So both. The vital, when it's untransformed, it wants to keep taking. But when it's transformed, it's very happy to just give itself. Isha, can you open this door so we get a cross breeze? And maybe you can move in here. Yeah?
Earlier we said that, Sri Aurobindo said that mother's protection, you can go out of it by desire, wrong thoughts, wrong actions.
We keep questions for the end, Anjan?
Yeah, sure.
Huh? Unless it's directly connected to the.
Because you spoke about not suppressing the vital.
Huh. So, okay.
Earlier he says that when you do all this vital indulgence, ambition, pride, all that, you move out of the protection.
Yeah. So, you have to transform those movements, not suppress them.
What's the, how do you transform unless
By
you don't suppress it?
no. Suppress, you don't feed them, but you are present to them. You don't deny them and you offer them to the mother's light. The true vital movement is the most beautiful and magnificent of movements, but it has been twisted and turned into the most ugly, the most distorted, the most repulsive. Whenever in a human story of love there has entered even an atom of pure love, and it has been allowed to manifest without too much distortion, we find a true and beautiful thing. And if the movement does not last, it is because it is not conscious of its own aim and seeking. It has not the knowledge that it is not the union of one being with another that is seeking after, but the union of all beings with the divine. Then we come to further words of the mother. One must kindle Agni, one must concentrate here in the heart, she says, not in the mind. But here, Agni, I will tell you a secret. You know, you must give everything to the divine. Give without reserve. Then one receives much more than one can imagine. The more one gives oneself, the more one receives. It is not enough to open oneself and remain calm. Neither is it enough to make a hole in the head so that the force and light can enter into you. So some people can open overhead and receive the force and light, but she's saying that's not enough. It helps a little, but it is not the end. It is still not enough. These means do not make any difference. To do this work, one must know how to give. Give everything that you have. Give like this gesture, open without restraint. So one of the best ways of transforming the vital is to give it to the divine. Whatever wrong movements come up, just offer them to the mother. Actually have a conversation with her as if she's your spiritual therapist, that this has come up, and show her every detail of the wrong movement inside you. Write a letter, speak to her, and believe you me, if you do it sincerely from the heart, by the time you finished having this conversation in your head, you'll already feel a little free of it. Then when it comes up again offer it to her. Tell her, describe in detail all the emotions you're feeling without holding anything back. Because mother anyway knows everything what you're feeling. What's the point of hiding from her? Show her all your darknesses that they may change to light. I put this up on the Savitri group a few weeks back, that a disciple tells the mother that, Mother, I don't seem to have anything to offer you but my darknesses and my weaknesses. And mother says that's the best offering, because if you offer me that, it's a chance for the whole world to change. Because if I change a pocket of darkness in one person, the similar vibration of darkness changes for the global whole. So just offer her every darkness you feel, and in time to come she'll change it. You have to give your thoughts, your desires, your actions, your sensations, your possessions, your being, all that you have, all that you are, give everything, everything without reserve. Then one receives. Only then one is fit to do this work. Getting rid of repulsion, Mother's words. The world is full of things that are not pleasing or beautiful, but that is no reason why one should live in a constant feeling of repulsion for these things, right? We are all surrounded by things that are not pleasing, that are not beautiful, be it family members, workplace, whatever. But Mother says, that is no reason why one should live in a constant feeling of repulsion for these things. All feelings of shrinking and disgust and fear that disturb and weaken the human mind can be overcome. A yogi has to overcome these reactions, for almost the very first step in yoga demands that you keep a perfect equanimity. Samatvam yoga uchyate, the famous saying of the Gita, that yoga itself is samatha. So, demands that you keep a perfect equanimity in the presence of all beings and things and happenings. Always you must remain calm, untouched and unmoved. The strength of the yogi lies there. So maybe Mother's putting irritants into your life to develop this muscle of samatha in you, because without those irritants, how would you ever develop samatha? Always you must remain calm, untouched and unmoved. The strength of the yogi lies there. An entire calmness and quietness will disarm even dangerous and ferocious animals when they confront you. There was a very sweet story from the life of Swami Vivekananda. So when he was a young boy, he and his friends would often pretend to play games, pretend to meditate, etc. So Swami Vivekananda was young, he was called Naren at that time, and he pretended to meditate. I think they might be playing a game of who can meditate longer or something like that. And while playing the game, he slipped into a very deep meditative state. And they were in open air and a snake came. And all his friends got very frightened because the snake was right there. And they tried to wake Swamiji out of his state. But even as that young boy, he was in such a peaceful state that he didn't come out. And his peace was so solid that the snake just slithered away. But that makes sense, no? All our rishis meditate in jungles surrounded by all kinds of wildlife. And I've never heard of a single sage being attacked. Have you? In any story? By any animal? I've never heard of it. How does it happen? Because these sages have such a aura of peace that peace is their protection. We see a little cockroach, we start screaming, little mosquito, we start clapping. But if we don't bother about it, if we just let it be, the mosquito won't come to us, nothing will harm us. When we want to attack life, life attacks us back. Yeah? So, an entire calmness and quietness will disarm even dangerous and ferocious animals when they confront you. Repulsion is a movement of ignorance. It is an instinctive gesture of self-defense. Yeah, you get repelled by things because you want to defend yourself against it. But wisdom will tell you that in this world you don't have to defend yourself against anything, because everything is God. You don't need to defend yourself against God, right? So, even the mosquito is God. Repulsion is a movement of ignorance. It is an instinctive gesture of self-defense. But what best protects you against any danger is not an unreasoning recoil, but knowledge. Knowledge of the nature of the danger and a conscious application of the means that will remove or nullify. This is beautiful, huh? And this sentence you can really contemplate hours on it. What best protects you against any danger is not an unreasoning recoil, but knowledge. I'm reading it, I'd like to know what you've understood from it. Listen carefully. What best protects you against any danger is not an unreasoning recoil, but knowledge. Knowledge of the nature of the danger and a conscious application of the means that will remove or nullify it. What does this mean?
Being aware.
Of what? So, suppose there's a person at home who's very annoying. For instance, it's a common scenario. So, you feel repulsed, and your repulsion is a movement of self-defense. You don't want to be around the person. That's your movement of self-defense. So, instead of repulsion, what does Sri Aurobindo say that you could have? Or is it the mother? It's the mother. What could you have instead of repulsion?
Accept.
How will acceptance come? Anyone? Yeah?
Understand the true nature of that person.
What does that mean?
Understand that the person is not the person, but made up of a spectrum of circumstances, habits, behaviors, patterns. So, a person is not a person because it's you. A person is a person because it's a person.
Right. To not make it personal.
So it's like that scorpion example. The scorpion doesn't sting to hurt you. It stings because its nature is to sting. It would sting anyone,
Right.
regardless of, and it's its nature, and it can't control it.
Right.
Beyond its control until there's a consciousness.
Right.
Also, when you see it as mother, then what is that response which is evoked within you? Because that same thing cannot evoke a
Same response in somebody else, right? So, if we understand that there's a meaning in every curve and line, there's a meaning behind why this person is part of your life, right? Mother wouldn't have put an irritant in your life just like that. She's put the person in your life for a purpose.
Also, interestingly, you are with the person whose background story you will always know. That annoying person, for some reason, most circumstances, you know the background of that person. That person can affect you because they are part of your life and you are part of their life.
Huh?
So you can develop an understanding of that annoying person.
Huh,
It's not
what he's
random.
saying is, if it's a person at home, you know the person's history, right?
You can be aware of
You
it.
can be aware of
It's not
it.
a
You,
random person can walk in and you'll be annoyed.
right, right. He's saying if it's a person at home, you do know a context about the person which can give you a greater understanding of the person. That understanding of the person is beautiful and it helps. But more importantly, look in yourself for what is the samskar. You understand samskar? Everyone understands samskar? It's a blueprint in your consciousness which attracts events to you. So, a samskar results in karma, right? So, what is the samskar in you which is attracting this behavior from the person? Not attracting, but which is needing this behavior from the person, so that samskar is brought to light and it changes. Do you understand what I'm saying?
How would you know what your samskar is? From your response.
Sometimes a person is generally obnoxious.
Exactly. So, a scorpion generally stings. Exactly what Nash is saying. that a scorpion generally stings. It won't specifically sting you. The person may be generally obnoxious. So one is, don't make it personal. Secondly, ask that why does he trigger me so much? What Purvi was saying, somebody else in your place may not be so triggered. Why are you triggered? I keep telling you this, no, if you squeeze lemons, lemon juice will come out because there's lemon juice inside the lemon. You squeeze a mango, mango juice will come out. When the person squeezes you, what comes out is what's inside you. So instead of preventing the person from squeezing you, because if not this person, somebody else will squeeze you, better to change the content of what comes out when you're squeezed. Right? So that is the more important thing. So we did this in today morning's yoga class. Let's all do it together. It will be very useful for everyone.
But Anahita,
Huh?
if there's a scorpion,
Huh.
you want to protect yourself also, right? You would not want to be bitten. So you
But,
want, you know that whoever, maybe it's a scorpion or it's a person you want to stay away, or you find some way to protect yourself. You know.
So that's what mother's saying, that repulsion comes and self-defensiveness comes with it. But she's saying that's the inferior way. The higher way is to change something in you which doesn't get triggered. Because when you get triggered, that's a leakage in your protective shield. If you reach a consciousness where you don't get triggered, that consciousness becomes your protection, and the person will either calm down or somehow not be so obnoxious around you. Once that person has done her work for you. See, the person will be taken out of your life if you don't need the person. You need the person in your life, so the person is in your life. Sri Aurobindo says it, no, in his aphorisms, the Titans are loved by God more than the gods. Titans are the demonic asuras, because the Titans do his dirty work. His dirty work is cleansing your consciousness. If the Titans weren't there, you wouldn't get cleansed. So God actually has a very special love for the Titans. They are dearer to him than the gods because the Titans do his dirty work. Yeah?
And what I've seen is that if it's not this person, it'll be another one.
Exactly. I'm telling you, the squeezing will never stop. If you want better things to come out, change what you're holding inside you. That's a more sensible thing to do. Okay, so now sit up straight. Sit tall and try to recollect the most recent thing that comes to mind which really agitated you. Be clear about the memory of what really agitated you, or what created sadness or hurt or fear or any negative emotion. With your eyes shut preferably, palms facing the ceiling, resting on your thighs or knees. And whenever you've thought of that incident, turn your palms down. Now, if we are clear that everything happens in our life as a need of our soul. Sri Aurobindo says, wherever there is ignorance, there suffering too must come. The suffering comes not because I am bad or life is bad, but because life loves me so much that it can't let me stay imprisoned in my ignorance. It will send just the amount of suffering required for me to be free of that ignorance. So just ask your higher wisdom, what was the ignorance in my nature that invited this behavior? Is it an already always about the person's already like this and always like this? Is it an inadequacy in me? Is it a deep-rooted fear of not being safe in me? Just look and let your inner wisdom give you the answer. Now coin a word. Suppose the inner samskar in me was one of jealousy. Then I'm going to exhale jealousy. And what would I want instead of jealousy? I would want its opposite, generosity, capacity to feel happy when the other does well. If it was irritation, then I would want samatha or equanimity or peace. So choose two words, the positive quality that you want to inhale and the negative quality that created the reaction in you which you want to exhale. Once you're clear of these two words, take a deep breath in, articulating the positive word as if you're inhaling it in with your breath. Maybe that quality has a color, and if you're a visual person, suppose my word is generosity. I'm going to say generosity, seeing the color of generosity as I inhale, and I exhale the negative quality. Suppose jealousy, what color is jealousy to me? I exhale out that color. So do this for 12 breaths. While you're doing it, it may be helpful to keep that event you chose to work with in mind, because that event already exists as a samskar in your consciousness. And if you do this breathing, keeping that event in the background of your mind, you're loosening the samskar of that event in your consciousness. And then, as Rishi Patanjali says, Heyam dukkham anagatam, then you prevent future dukkha from coming, because you've released the blueprint, the samskar which would invite it into your life. So now I'll be quiet, 12 breaths from now on your own. Whenever your 12th breath is completed, slowly open your eyes. You may find that along the way, the words change. Your deeper wisdom may give you the more accurate words, the more accurate pair of words. Did anyone find that? that you started with one pair of words and along the way it changed. Because the first pair of words will be very superficial level. But as you go deeper and deeper, you see, yeah, I thought it was jealousy, but behind the jealousy there's fear or something else or something else. So if this worked for you, very recommended that you do it for 21 days every night before you sleep. So I'm reading this line again. Repulsion is a movement of ignorance. It is an instinctive gesture of self-defense. But what best protects you against any danger is not an unreasoning recoil, but knowledge. Knowledge of the nature of the danger and a conscious application of the means that will remove or nullify it. Now, Mother's words on renunciation. There is in books a lot of talk about renunciation, but you must renounce possession, you must renounce possessions, renounce attachments, renounce desires. But I have come to the conclusion that so long as you have to renounce anything, you are not on this path. So beautiful. For so long as you are not thoroughly disgusted with things as they are and have to make an effort to reject them, you are not ready for the supramental realization. So what Mother's saying is that in her path, you don't have to renounce things, you have to outgrow them. As your consciousness grows, the things that attracted you in the past, you see they are empty. I want something more. So long as you need them, don't run away from them, but interact with them consciously. You understand what it means to fulfill a desire consciously is to be free of it. Beautifully said that every desire is the residue of an incomplete experience. If you go into something in a half-baked way, like you really want to talk to this person, but morality tells you, oh, he's a man, don't talk. I'm giving you an example. Don't talk to him, etc. Then you'll talk to him in a very half-baked way and it's an incomplete experience. So every desire is the residue of an incomplete experience. Instead, go into it consciously. I want to talk to this person. I'll go all out. I'll talk to it, but I'll be conscious. I'll see what I'm feeling. I'll be present to it. And if you do it completely, you may find that you didn't get anything much out of talking to that person. It was just another oasis. You thought there was water there, but there was no water there. It didn't really make you so happy finally. So you'll reach a point where if you go into fulfilling desires consciously, you'll go, but it must be conscious, because otherwise to keep fulfilling desires, to keep strengthening the samskar of that desire, you have to bring consciousness to it. See, if you can offer it to Mother and she takes it away, good. But you have to reach a point where you really want to offer it to her. Sometimes the desire has such a strong hold on you that deep down you're not convinced that you're better off without it. So if you're not convinced you're better off without it, then go into it consciously. But go into it consciously. That's the key word.
Can you put a little more into going into consciously, a little how it works?
So, suppose take this example. You want to talk to, there are many young people here, you want to talk to this one boy who you have a crush on. Now, you will take it to whatever your thing is, extrapolate it to whatever your desire is. You want to talk to this one boy, but maybe you've heard negative things about him, that he'll get you into trouble, blah, blah, blah. and or you have moral things by which you feel you don't want to talk, you shouldn't talk to that person. But deep down, you have a fantasy about this boy and you feel you won't be happy without him, no matter what people tell you and no matter what you've heard. Then pray to the mother that, yeah, since this desire is not leave, first try offering it to her that, mother, if this person is good for me, only then let me talk to him, otherwise take away my desire to speak to him. But if the desire still keeps persisting and you're not convinced that you're better off without talking to the boy, then reach out and talk to him, but go into it very consciously. Take mother with you, that I'm going into it, but you be with me through every bit of the conversation. And then once you're with the mother, go into it, be present to what you're feeling. Don't get carried away. If you're feeling a huge attachment, be present to that attachment. See, when you're very attached to a person, often around that person you become unconscious. You know what I mean? What do I mean by you become unconscious around that person?
You lose touch with the mother presence.
In a more simple word, mother of course, but you lose consciousness of your surroundings also. You just get into a funny hypnotized state where you're just being dragged by the hypnotism of the attachment into being less than what you really are. You know what I'm saying? You lose yourself. So make a resolve that I want to be conscious more than the flattery I get out of this person's glad eye or whatever else. I want to be conscious that flattery has done me little good. I've gone through this cycle many times. I have always gone up and down with that glad eye or that attention. So, because what happens is then you stop being, you invest into appearing. You want to appear good in that person's eyes. And that need to appear makes you very unconscious, because you lose touch with being, no? Wherever there's a need to appear, you're completely out of touch with being, if you know what I mean. So you become unconscious. So first see that pattern in you, observe it, and tell yourself this is a useless path to go down again and again. I don't want to be like that. Next time I want to be with that person with complete consciousness. So put that will and invite mother to help you fulfill that will. And then interact with that person, constantly reminding yourself, more than the wanting to look good in this person's eyes, I want to be conscious. I don't want to lose my anchoring in being. And then see where it leads. Purvi, does that answer?
Yes.
So, only when you find such a world disgusting, unbearable and unacceptable are you fit for the change of consciousness. So, you have to sometimes go through repeated cycles of unconsciousness till you develop a disgust for it. Then you say, Chalya, I don't want it. I know where it's going to lead. Enough is enough. That is why I do not give any importance to the idea of renunciation. To renounce means that you are to give up what you value, that you have to discard what you think is worth keeping. But on the contrary, you must feel it is this world is ugly, the world of your perception, She's not meaning the actual world. This world is ugly, stupid, brutal and full of intolerable suffering. And once you feel in this way, all the physical, all the material consciousness which does not want it to be that will want it to change, crying, I will have something else, something that is true, beautiful, full of delight and knowledge and consciousness. All here is floating on a sea of dark unconsciousness. But when you want the divine with all your will, all your resolution, all your aspiration and intensity, It will surely come. But it is not merely a matter of ameliorating the world, changing the world. There are people who clamor for change of government, social reform, and philanthropic work, believing that they can thereby make the world better. We want a new world, a true world, an expression of the truth consciousness, and it will be. Mother says it will be. It must be, and the sooner the better. It should not, however, be just a subjective change. The whole physical life must be transformed. The material world does not want a mere change of consciousness in us. It says, in effect, you retire into bliss. The material world will say, you retire into bliss, become luminous, have the divine knowledge, but that does not alter me. I will still remain the hell I practically am. If you don't change, then the world remains what it is. The true change of consciousness is one that will change the physical conditions of the world and make it an entirely new creation. Conversion of the vital. One of the commonest demands of the vital is for praise, right? It hates to be criticized and treated as if it were of little importance. But it must be always prepared for rebuffs and stand them with absolute calm. Nor must it pay attention to compliments, forgetting that each movement of self-satisfaction is an offering at the altar of the lords of falsehood. So you get praised and you feel self-satisfied, and it's like a drug. The more you get it, the more you want it. And when you don't have it, you feel uneasy. So every time you allow yourself to be self-satisfied with praise, Mother says, remember, it's an offering at the altar of the lords of falsehood. Instead of that self-satisfaction, when you get praise, thank God. Gratitude is an offering at the altar of the Lord. But feeling self-satisfied with praise is an offering at the altar of the lords of falsehood. Another remarkable sign of the conversion, Prarthana, another remarkable sign of the conversion of your vital owing to Agni's influence is that you face your difficulties and obstacles with a smile. You do not sit any more in sackcloth and ashes, lamenting over your mistakes and feeling utterly crestfallen because you are not at that moment quite up to the mark. You simply chase away depression with a smile. 100 mistakes do not matter to you. With a smile you recognize that you have erred, and with a smile you resolve not to repeat the folly in future. So beautiful. Sri Aurobindo says, when you're evolutionary, you never flog yourself for a mistake. With a smile you recognize the mistake, and with a smile you resolve not to repeat it in future. All depression and gloom is created by the hostile forces who are never so pleased as when throwing on you a melancholy mood. Humility is indeed one thing and depression quite another. So humility is one thing, but when you say I'm no good, I'm always wrong, that's not humility, that's depression. The former a divine movement, the latter a very crude expression of the dark forces. Therefore face your troubles joyously. Oppose with invariable cheerfulness the obstacles that beset the road to transformation. The best means of rooting the enemy is to laugh in his face. You may grapple and tussle for days and he may still show an undiminished vigor. But just once laugh at him and lo, he takes to his heels. A laugh of self-confidence and of faith in the divine is the most shattering strength possible. So I remember there was when Sri Aurobindo left his body, Sri Aurobindo had a nephew apparently, and that nephew may not know too much about Sri Aurobindo's yoga, he mustn't have, because he thought the ashram property is my uncle's, so I can inherit some of it. So they told the mother that this nephew is coming to stake his claim. So the mother just smiled, almost laughed and said, let him come, we'll see. I mean, we get so rattled at the thought of litigation and all that. But look at her, this was really her response, a laugh to anything. And of course, it fizzled out. The converted vital feels also a joy in the process of realization. All the difficulties implied in the process it accepts with gusto. It never feels happier than when the truth is shown it and the play of falsehood in its lower nature laid bare. It does not do the yoga as if carrying a burden on its back, but as if it were a very pleasurable occupation. It is willing to endure the utmost with a smile, as if it is a condition of the transformation. Neither complaining nor grumbling, it endures happily because it is for the sake of the divine that it does so. The nature of your difficulty indicates the nature of the victory you will gain, the victory you will exemplify in yoga. Thus, if there is persistent selfishness, it points to a realization of universality as your most prominent achievement in future. So, I'm not reading this whole passage, you can read it on your own. But simply Sri Aurobindo is saying that if you have a weakness in your nature, you have the potential for an equal opposite strength. And I often give this example when I teach yoga. The children who are reasonably good and not distracted from the beginning, they do well. But it's the rascals who, when they turn around, they go to some unprecedented height. The ones who are the most distracted in class, when they turn around, you will be amazed to see what they are capable of accessing. So if you have a weakness in you, it's the raw material for the equal opposite strength. Huh? So, so that you can read on your own, and remember, the grace of the divine is generally proportional to your difficulties. All can be done by the divine, the heart and nature purified, the inner consciousness awakened, the veils removed, if one gives oneself to the divine with trust and confidence. And even if one cannot do so fully at once, yet the more one does so, the more the inner help and guidance comes and the contact and experience of the divine grows within. So now we do just the first verse of this beautiful poem by Sri Aurobindo. Rejoice and fear not, for the waves that swell, the storms that thunder, winds that sweep. Always our captain holds the rudder well, he does not sleep. So beautiful. If life is a ship and the ship is going through storms, the waves are swelling, the storms are thundering, Sri Aurobindo is saying, rejoice and fear not, for the waves that swell, the storms that thunder, winds that sweep. Always our captain holds the rudder well, he does not sleep. Actually, it's too beautiful, I'll say the whole poem. If in the trough of the enormous sea, thou canst not find the sky for spray, fear never, for our sun is there with thee by night and day. Even those who sink in the victorious flood, where do they sink? Into his breast. So he's saying that there's a captain who's holding the ship well, who'll make sure the sink doesn't ship. But if by chance, even if the sink ships, it's only sinking into the captain's breast, because the captain is in the ship, he's in the water also. He who to some givest victory, joy and good, to some gives rest, but thou look to the radiant days that wait beyond the driving rain and storm. I have seen the vision of a happier fate brightening thy form. So beautiful. He's saying that even when you're going through darkness, I, that is your Guru, has seen the vision of a happier fate brightening your form. Confident of his grace, expect his will. Let him lead, though hidden be the bourne. See him in all that happens, that fulfill for which thou wert born. You were born to get this vision, to see the truth, to see God's hand, the invisible, unfailing protection in everything that is. So that fulfill for which thou wert born. Okay? So, any questions now? Okay, then let's end with 3 ohms.